Cooper Flagg entered the season as one of the most anticipated and hyped #1 recruits in recent memory, and while it's tough to meet those type of expectations, he's been very good in his first 10 games at Duke, leading the team in points, rebounds, assists, and blocks, and saving his best performances for the biggest games. Now, while he's been great in a lot of ways and looked like a #1 caliber prospect, he's still shown plenty of areas he can improve and has had moments where you can actually tell he is still just 17 years old. So let's take a first look at everything that he's done so far and what will be watched closely as the season progresses. Defensively, Coop has continued to be a clear standout and already one of the more impactful guys in the country. That hasn't been quite as loud as we've seen him in the past, both statistically and in those sort of wow factor plays, but even for marquee prospect standards, he's been excellent in a lot of ways. He's versatile, he's smart, he's a great athlete, and it shows up consistently. His impact and feel as a help defender has been the most impressive to me. He's pretty consistently a step ahead of the play and has instincts for where he needs to be on the floor, whether it's making plays in a passing lane, coming over help side for a contest or a block, or just being in the right spots and keeping plays from developing. It's been there, and when you're posting a block rate of 5.6 and a steal over 3 and a defensive box plus minus that has only been done by 11 other freshmen in Bart Torvik's database, and on top of that you're among the best in other defensive metrics like Evan Maya's BPR, where he's #1 in the country, it matches up with what he's shown on the floor. You saw him quickly recognize how Kansas likes to isolate Dickinson and especially exploit teams that try to front him, and while Coop didn't get this first steal, he was there and they ended up getting the takeaway. And then in the second half of that game, he got it done, immediately recognizing his responsibility weak side and not sticking, flying through and getting the takeaway with obvious help from Malik battling down low. His versatility has also stood out as he's guarded in a lot of spots, including holding his own in the post a handful of times, and I've been impressed by his functional strength and his ability to use his length there. And then he's been solid in containment in one-on-one situations. Now, he still hasn't shown himself to be like a shutdown wing as a mover. He can get a bit handsy when applying pressure, and I'm curious to see what this all looks like with more reps down the stretch. But overall, he's done a good job on switches. He stayed in stride with guards and quicker creators and used his length to make up for what he might lack in raw quickness or reaction time. And through watching all these games, there's only a few moments where he was either blown past or taken advantage of in a way that hurt his team on that possession, and that's a great start for a young freshman.
That's just bad defense. Flagg with a late recovery and a rejection on Bailey. Curry under 5 to shoot. Flagg may have gotten a piece.
Duke is up 11, and they no doubt can sense it right now.
It's not just that they won games, it's how they did it.
Now on the offensive end, it's a bit tougher to fully describe who he's been so far. He's certainly shown some of his flaws, which we'll get to, but there's still also been a lot of positives, especially in the biggest games of the year. Against Kentucky, Kansas, Arizona, and Auburn, he's averaging nearly 22 points a game on over 45% from the field, which is pretty significant stuff for anyone. So far, he's been used a little differently than in the past. He's had a great responsibility within the offense at a usage rate around 30, and he's done a lot of initiating and running pick and rolls. And through these 10 games, he's actually run 19% of his possessions as a pick and roll ball handler, according to Synergy, which is his second most common play type this year, and far and away the highest volume of pick and rolls he's run at any point in his young history as a player, including his time in the EYBL 16s, which was his previous high at 7.6%. I think all of this kind of speaks to his growth as a ball handler over the years, but there's still been a clear adjustment, but we'll circle back to some of that. He's still been his most effective first turning defense in the offense and running lanes in transition. That's where most of his points have come from so far. And in the half court, he's had success finishing plays, and any opportunity that he's been able to benefit from flow or someone making a play for him, he's ran with. Those late game screen and dives to the rim against Kansas, or those same looks against Louisville, or the quick post ups. That's the piece I think fully unlocks what he can produce in the half court right now and could be a viable option in the future at the NBA level as well.
Getting louder by the moment. Flagg, NCAA tournament. They have been as good as any conference. It'll be an interesting year in the league as Flagg lays it.
South Sudan Olympic team. And he is long, a shot blocker, and everything around the basket. He dunks.
He's also been underratedly good as a driver too. His combination of athleticism, touch, and toughness has gotten him a lot of easy looks, and the handle is functional enough right now to get him where he needs to go, which I think is fine. This obviously has some scrutiny there, and for good reason, and we're going to get to that, but because he's not super flashy, I feel like this part of his game can be underrated or overlooked. This is one of, if not his best play this year, taking KJ Adams off the bounce and finishing with the left hand over Flory Bidunga in a late big game situation. That's just big time stuff there. And then here against Kentucky, he gets a switch, gets to the crossover, has great pace, and avoids the dig coming from the corner, and uses his off arm to create separation against a smaller defender to finish. Even without a singular area where he's been elite so far as a scorer, he has been solid to good in a lot of areas, and I don't think that should go unnoticed, and plays like this are more of a peek into his upside than I think he's given credit. Now, what I've been most impressed by offensively though is his passing, and it's by a pretty significant margin. His feel for where his teammates are on the floor has continued to stand out. He's done a very good job of reading defenses in the pick and roll and making quick decisions, whether it's a touch pass to find Malo Watch on the roll or reading the low man or help and finding the corner quickly. He's been on point. He's also found teammates on dump-offs and kickouts as he's attacking the rim, and also made plays in transition, on hit-aheads, and even tossbacks to shooters. And him and Tyrese Proctor have had some chemistry growing in that respect. Even on plays where Flagg gets an offensive rebound and immediately finds a teammate or makes a one more, he's consistently made the right decision. Same goes for some of those short roll reads, and like I said in the preseason, this element of his game is only going to continue to grow as he does as a scorer. So this is the spot that I think he's been inarguably good on the offensive end.
Flagg with a steal. Shovel past Proctor. His second three tonight.
Little give and go. Flagg outside.
Shorten the game, shrink the court as much as you can.
Malo Watch the lob and the finish. Dukes on the
Now going forward in this season, it's pretty clear where he's going to need to improve, and that first spot is as a ball handler and overall as a perimeter player. That's not really different than what we expected coming in, but right now I understand a lot of people's most lasting impression of him is probably the turnovers down the stretch against Kentucky, where sure, fatigue and questionable draw up contributed to it, but the handle flaws were highlighted and he'll need to improve, particularly long term. He's also had a habit of dribbling into traffic. The ball security can certainly be better, and I think he's still making that adjustment to finding solutions around the bucket, because he's still got a lot of big man instincts and tendencies right now where he'd opt to back down or use his frame a lot of the time when there are opportunities to get to something different. Now, there have been flashes of excellence, whether it's him stringing crossovers into pull-ups, hitting turnarounds, or just generally making big shots in big moments while creating for himself, and I do think the usage is actually going to end up being a huge positive for him in the long run. But if we're just keeping it to how he's performed this year, he's shooting just 24% on 29 attempts off the bounce, so it's not at all a positive element of his game right now, and I'll be curious to see where it goes down the stretch.
Up and good.
And then the other most obvious pressing area for improvement is his three ball. He's currently shooting just 22% from deep, most of which have come off the catch and actually been clean looks. This was a potential swing factor coming in, but it just hasn't been there so far for whatever reason, whether it's the adjustment to the college game, the usage and load that he's had, or just because he's been cold to start. It has been significant. Now, I don't think he's nearly as bad a shooter as he's been so far. There's also no obvious mechanical flaws. He's not scared to shoot it, so I'm pretty confident it's going to climb, and going forward he'll be capable, but we'll have to wait and see where those things go the rest of the way. If we do get to March and he's low to mid-20s from deep as a guy who, even at his absolute peak, is still likely going to be producing a lot of offense as an off-ball threat, then a different conversation might need to be had, especially if his efficiency is dragging along like it is now. But until then, we'll wait and see. Now let's get into some upcoming matchups. Duke has already had a handful of big time matchups, which, as an aside, I think that's been one of the big benefits of the changing college basketball landscape, but there's still a good amount of games I'm interested in seeing the rest of the way. In conference play, I think the UNC matchups should be fun as usual. Not that this UNC team presents a huge challenge personnel or scheme wise, but there's very few things better than that rivalry, and it always brings out the best of everyone in those environments. And the type of competitor that he is, I'm really eager to see it. And then after that, I would say Virginia, Clemson, Pitt, and maybe Cal are the others I'm most interested out of the options in the ACC, maybe Florida State as well. And then they also play Illinois at MSG in late February, who of course has Kaspers Yakuchonis, Will Riley, Visic, Boswell, etc. So that one's circled at the top of the list before they get into postseason play shortly after that, and I'm positive the entire league will be represented at that game. There's a lot that could happen between now and the draft, so nothing is set in stone, but it's hard to see a world where Coop is anything less than the second pick in the draft, and he's likely still the front runner at number 1. There is a lot that I'm interested in seeing from him the rest of the way, but 6'9" wing with great feel, two-way impact, and a growing skill set on offense at his age is pretty hard to nitpick if you ask me, and he's also been at his best in the big games. There's only one player I think will seriously challenge him for that number 1 spot, and that's who we'll talk about next. If you enjoyed this video, be sure to leave a like, subscribe if you are new to the channel, and leave a comment down below of what you've thought of Coop's game so far. As always, I'm Keandre, this is HoopIntellect. Until next time, I'm out.